Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back to the Networking RX podcast. I am the host, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thanks for tuning in, subscribing, rating, reviewing, sharing it with others. At any rate, recently I subscribed to a newsletter called Psyblog, Psyblog. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to start to follow it. It's got information that anybody can see. It's got a paywall as well. I paid to subscribe. A lot of great information. It's put together by a psychologist, Jeremy Dean, and he's got a doctorate in psychology from University College of London, and then 2 other advanced degrees in psychology. At any rate, lots of great information, and what Jeremy does is he will find various studies out there, and he'll quickly review them and share out to his subscribers, paid and otherwise, just kind of a rundown of the information. So I'll be delving into this from time to time. Like I say, there's a lot of great information that comes from this, and so I certainly, in fact, last week I referenced the whole notion of smiling, which came from that as well. But I think I talked more about Bob Berg than I did Psyblog and Jeremy Dean's work. But at any rate, a lot of good stuff. One that caught my attention this week is how to get a narcissist to feel empathy. That was the title of his email or his short article. And again, these articles, what I like about them, there's probably a page and a half. So we're talking about 2 minutes of reading just to kind of give you some details. And not everything he comes out with strikes my fancy. A lot of does, some doesn't. But then he'll refer back to the original research. So this was a study that was done out there. And his article starts out, narcissists aren't much interested in other people's suffering or, for that matter, any other people's feelings. And basically what they wanted to do in this study is they wanted to basically see if they could get narcissists to have feelings towards others, greater empathy towards others. And what they showed in the study, and this was a study that was done out of the UK, that narcissists can be made to feel empathy, where they could nudge them in that direction. And so in formulating the study, what they did was they had 2 groups. They had low narcissists and high narcissists in there. The low narcissist, I think, is a fancy way of this. Low narcissist is their term, as well as high narcissists, and that was just kind of their way of divvying people up. I assume someone who's a low narcissist is somebody you would deem not to be narcissistic at all. I think we all probably have narcissistic tendencies. Some are just higher than others. But anyhow, they had 2 groups. And what he talks about, he clearly makes the distinction that nobody here has what they would call is clinically narcissistic, and it talks about in the study in the article that people who are clinically narcissistic, I mean, they've got real problems and really have no interest in anybody or changing and get angry about it. So when they say high narcissist, it's not something that's clinical. It's just a normal person who is really self-centered. Maybe not in a horrible way, but they're self-centered. And what they did in the study is they gave both groups a passage to read which described a relationship breakup, and as expected, the narcissist, the high narcissist group, um, showed no empathy towards the story's protagonist. And it really didn't matter what the story was. They kind of read it and like, meh, whatever. Um, and that's really kind of normal for a narcissist. Again, they're not interested in other people's suffering or really other people's feelings. Um, but that was kind of the control, if you will. Um, and so then the study, what they did was they gave the narcissists a nudge, this high narcissist group. Um, Both groups, the high narcissist and the low narcissist, were asked to watch a 10-minute video um, of a woman describing her experiences as a victim of domestic violence. I think it was a 10-minute video, they said. But before they watched the video, both groups were instructed to empathize. And the name of the woman in the video was Susan. So the instructions were simply this: imagine how Susan feels. Try to take her perspective in the video. Imagine how she's feeling about what is happening. Um, and what they found was um, that really didn't change the low narcissists, uh, their reaction. I mean, they were empathetic. They were empathetic. There was no more empathy displayed by the low narcissist group. They were empathetic. But what they found is that the high empathy group, given this nudge of ask to be empathetic, to think about what somebody might feel, kind of nudged them towards being more empathetic. And so the study shows that we can take people who are somewhat self-centered, somewhat narcissistic, and nudge them in a direction to be less than that. And I think this is important for our relationships, personal and professional relationships, is that we can nudge people in the direction we want them to be. Not order them, but just kind of suggest things to them, if you will. In the study, they said that people are generally empathetic, but people who tend to be higher narcissists just need to be pushed in that direction. And I think that's certainly true. I see people out there who are self-centered. I don't know that I would call them narcissistic, but they're self-centered. Maybe that's the definition. They're self-centered. They're worried about themselves. And what this suggests is that, rather than just sitting and looking at people and saying, okay, yeah, you're a narcissist and there's nothing I can do, and just kind of commiserating about them, or worse yet, getting in a circle of other people and just saying, oh my God, can you believe what Susan's like or Bob's like? They're so self-centered. What this basically says is that people can be nudged in a direction. Now, what the study doesn't get into is, well, how long lasting is this? Do you have to continue to make this nudge, or is it more permanent? And the study didn't really get into that. It was just kind of a one-off effect. And it sounds like, maybe the person needs to be reminded, although, again, that's what the study says. I don't know that, I would tend to believe that, over time, you may not totally sway them, but over time you're going to make them more empathetic, bit by bit. In other words, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe it's 10 steps forward, 9 steps back, kind of a thing. But in time, you keep taking them 10 steps forward, and only end up only with 1 step. Over time, it kind of builds their empathy. So again, what this suggests is we have the ability to change the people around us. We have the ability to make them more empathetic, to make them potentially more giving, to make them more like us. And none of this is surprising to me because there's a great body of research out there that shows that, I've done some episodes on this, that we all really just want to fit in. And sometimes we don't know exactly how to fit in. And just as people around us are changing us or swaying us, we have the ability to sway them as well. And we have the ability to make them better, whatever it is, remembering, telling somebody, hey, remember somebody's name's important, is going to be a big step towards, reminding them that, to try and be better with respect to people's names. Or, we really need to think about these other people's feelings, is going to plant a seed in their mind to think about other people's feelings. And then where it goes from there, it certainly depends. I mean, it might be that thinking about somebody else's feelings leads to a little more action, which leads to a better outcome, which inspires them to think about other people's feelings more. So, the theme behind this particular episode is you don't have to just accept. You don't have to just accept people the way they are and just suffer through while they're just self-centered. That there are things that you can do to improve other people. And I would imagine that if you're listening to this, that you're probably open to being improved, open to being better. That's why you're on here. Then you can certainly look for things that you can improve upon yourself. But there are people around you you can make better. You can help lead them to, be more empathetic, to be more giving, to do the things that make them a better component of your network, if you will. Whether it's somebody who you work with at your office, somebody who's in your networking group, somebody who is just part of your network. Maybe it's a family member that you have the ability to alter who they are and how they think by just nudging them and suggesting things, and to a degree, modeling the right behavior. I think that's a powerful thing as well. Sometimes people will just get upset that people aren't doing the right things, and they'll throw their hands up and be a bad actor themselves, albeit in a different way, and it doesn't help the situation. Whereas if you get into a situation and say, we have the ability to make a difference, and we really should try and make a difference, helps them become a better person. So something to think about as you go about your day. And I will, in the show notes, I will put a link to SciBlog, so you can go in and you can poke around. And if you decide to subscribe, I will tell you. Well, you'll see it before you subscribe. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it cost me $50, $60 for an entire year. A lot of great information, and I'll report on things from time to time. I can't say that I'm going to report on everything that you would think is interesting, and you might miss out on other stuff. But that's why Jeremy Dean has got this particular site.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.